Okay, let's talk about autonomous AI. Everyone wants it, everyone's building it, but what does autonomous actually mean? It's got to be one of the most overused and confusing words in tech right now. So in this explainer, we're going to clear all that up. Let's get right into it.
I mean, you've seen this, right? The word is slapped on everything. A simple workflow, autonomous. A chatbot that just follows a script. Oh, that's autonomous too. Heck, sometimes it feels like anything that doesn't need a human to click a button every 2 seconds gets called autonomous. And look, this isn't just wordplay. This confusion really stops us from seeing what these systems can and can't actually do.
So that leads us to the big question, the one we're here to tackle. Where do you draw the line? Where does a simple script end? And where does a real AI agent actually begin? That's what we're going to figure out. All right, first things first, we have to tear down a really common and frankly dangerous assumption people have about autonomy. Getting this right is the key to everything else. Okay, so here's the trap a lot of us fall into. We think it's a simple on-off switch, right? Either a system is totally manual, a human's doing everything, or it's fully autonomous, this kind of magic black box that just runs itself. But that black and white thinking, it's just flat out wrong. And it's the root cause of all this confusion. So here's the single most important idea we're going to talk about today. Autonomy is not a switch. It's not a yes or no question. It's a spectrum. Think of it like a sliding scale, a dimmer switch that goes from a little bit of help to a whole lot of independent action. And honestly, if you get this one idea, you'll understand AI systems better than most people out there. And what's really cool is that once you start seeing it this way, you'll realize pretty much every system we use today lives somewhere on that spectrum. They're all in that messy, interesting gray area between full human control and total AI freedom. So let's actually map this out. We can break this whole spectrum down into 5 basic levels. We start at level 0, that's all manual, and we go all the way up to level 4, which is what we'd call true goal-driven autonomy. This is going to be our guide for the next few minutes. Okay, let's walk through this level by level. We're going to start with the most basic scripts and build our way up to see what makes a real agent tick. So, down at the bottom, levels 0 and 1, you've got pure execution. This is your classic if this, then that. The system is just following orders. It doesn't get to choose anything. Then you move up to level 2, assistance. This is where AI might help you write something or find information, but a human or a really rigid workflow is still calling all the shots. Now, level 3, limited choice. This is where things get really interesting. The system can start making some decisions on its own, like, should I use this tool or that one? Or, oops, that failed, let me try again. But it's all within very tight guardrails. And then you get to the top. Level 4, goal-driven choice. This is the big one. Here, you don't give the system a list of steps. You give it a goal, and it has to figure out the how all by itself. And that jump from level 2 to level 3, that's the real breaking point. This is exactly where simple, hard-coded scripts just start to crack. The real world is messy, it's unpredictable, and at this point, a system has to have some ability to make its own choices, even small ones, just to keep up. But you know what? We can actually boil this entire spectrum, all 5 levels, down to one single, super simple idea. One question that cuts through all the noise and tells you exactly what you're looking at. And here it is. This is the whole ballgame. With a script, the next step is defined. It's already been decided. It's in the code. But with an agent, the next step is chosen. It looks at the situation, thinks about its goal, and makes a choice. Defined versus chosen. That is literally the entire difference. So I want you to really let that sink in for a second. Autonomy doesn't start because a system uses a fancy large language model. It doesn't start because it sounds intelligent. Autonomy begins the moment the system itself gets to decide what the next move is. That's where agency is born. Okay, so now that we have a super clear definition, let's bring this back down to earth. Let's get real, because in the real world, chasing more and more autonomy isn't always the right move. In fact, a lot of the time, it's exactly the wrong thing to do. So how can you tell what you're looking at when you see a demo or a new product? Here's your cheat code, a simple litmus test. Just ask this one question. What happens when the plan goes wrong? Can this system figure out what to do next, all by itself, when things fail? If the answer is no, if it just grinds to a halt or throws an error or needs a human to step in, well, then it's a script. It might be a really smart, really complex script with AI sprinkled on top, but it's still a script. It doesn't have agency. And, there's a reason you don't see that level 4 full-on autonomy everywhere. There are some serious downsides. For one, these systems can be super unpredictable. They're way harder to debug when something goes wrong. They cost a lot more to operate, and maybe the scariest part, they can fail silently. Just go off the rails without telling anyone. And that's a massive risk, especially for a business. Which all leads to a much smarter way of thinking about this. The goal should never be maximum autonomy. That's a rookie mistake. The real goal, the professional goal, is appropriate autonomy, the right amount of control for the specific job you're trying to do. It really just comes down to using the right tool for the job. If you've got clear rules, if safety's non-negotiable, and if you need predictable costs, then a script is your best friend. It's reliable, it's safe. But if you're wading into a situation with tons of uncertainty where the goals might change and you need the system to explore possibilities, well, that's when you unleash an agent.
So the big takeaway here is that autonomy isn't some feature you can just add on at the end. It's a deep, fundamental design choice, and it always comes with trade-offs. You're constantly playing this balancing act between control and flexibility, between being predictable and being adaptable.
And deciding where on that spectrum your system should live, that's probably one of the most critical decisions anyone building with AI can make. It's about consciously choosing who or what gets to decide the next move. It's about being intentional. Because at the end of the day, real intelligence isn't just about being smart, it's about being responsible.